Hi, this is Greg Johnson, NCAA communications staff, and I'm here today with Shane Lyons, who's the chair of the Division I Football Oversight Committee and the director of athletics at West Virginia. Shane, you guys have had a big task trying to come up with a preseason plan for college football. I guess my first question, with all the uncertainty out there and a task this big, can you just talk about how you guys weigh the health and safety aspects of this decision, along with the decision of just trying to get the competition started?
Well, I think we started out, weeks ago, back into April, and I think our first and foremost goal was the health and safety of the student athlete, and knowing that we would be approaching a very fluid situation, not knowing what the month of June would look like, not sure what the month of July would look like, or even August. And as time has occurred, obviously we've kind of gone back to campus through voluntary workouts, and now we're in the process of saying when is the right to return with this model to make sure our student athletes are prepared for competition. So I'll give the committee a lot of credit of being very fluid as we've worked through this, but I do think that we came to the model of allowing the 6-week model in technically 8 weeks if you add summer access back in, which we've had. So now we're coming back mid-July and having about 10 days of summer access as conditioning activities specifically, and then we're going into the model of allowing what we're calling kind of enhanced summer access with walkthroughs, which you still have the 8 hours of conditioning activities, but then you would also have walkthroughs and team meetings allowed during that 2-week time period. Then you go into the normal preseason practice of 29, practice days before your first competition with the acclimatization. So there's a lot of things that pieces of the puzzles that we were putting together, but first and foremost was looking at the health and safety of the student athlete and making sure that they're prepared for those competitions once they arise.
Hey, I know you and all the other committee members have had tons of conversations, trying to get feedback to make these decisions. Do you think the membership understands that just how locally based these decisions are going to have to be? We don't know when the next outbreak might be or what campus might get hit. What are those discussions have been like?
Yeah, I think that, again, Greg, I think you bring up a good point, is understanding that when we kind of started this process, from the start, it was understanding there could be some, inequalities as we go through with different campuses opening, and understanding that, we got to get back, to playing football. And the question that we initially, put our arms around is saying, what if, some schools are not ready and some schools are ready to play? What does that look like? And I think the membership had sent us the message is saying, if the majority of your institutions are ready to go, we can't wait for 100%, participation by all the schools. So it'd have to be made at those local levels. But when we got to this model, it was how can we, come up with a model that's fair, from a competitive standpoint, and preparing our student athletes for competition that we can all kind of agree upon, since we didn't have a full summer of summer access that we've normally had with our student athletes. So, I'll give, again, a lot of credit to the committee that, my focus as the chair of this group was the collaboration effort. I don't think that we wanted to do anything within a vacuum, that we wanted to share this with the membership, get input of whether we were on the right track or not, and bring those back to various meetings and build collaboration and consensus. And so when we take this to the council next week, that hopefully it gets a rubber stamp and we don't have to vet all the issues again, that all conferences have had these discussions previously.
A lot of decisions are based on precedent. Since we're living in unprecedented times, just what has it been like for you and the committee to set this precedent and to make these decisions and just to go through this process? Could you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's been a real challenge. I think it's a challenge, on a number of fronts. Obviously, this being the one that's in our focus right now. But Greg, there's no blueprint for any of this, and so we're working, with a lot of unknowns and uncertainties as we move through this, and understanding it could change now, day to day, week by week, month by month. I think what we have learned is that being patient a little bit when we started this discussion in April has led us to what we got to today, because things are changing. And fortunately, right now, it's for the positive of campuses reopening and at least having the voluntary workouts as we speak, and student athletes returning to campus. And if you'd asked that question in mid-April, the answer was probably that's not going to happen, that they're not going to be back to campus till mid-July to maybe even in August. So, I think that there's more clarity as we move down those paths, but it's been a challenge, and there's still a lot of hypotheticals that's out there. And I don't think any of us like hypotheticals, but I think one thing COVID-19 has taught us is we have to try to address hypotheticals and have game plans in place in case it does change. And so it's been challenging, but it's been rewarding at the same time to at least come up with something that we all agree upon, and we can work through this and get football started again.
Hey, you mentioned the hypotheticals. Has there been anything you can compare this to? You've been a long time administrator. Is this just totally new, or is this?
Yeah, I think it's totally new from my eyes, because most of the other crises that you've had an end date. You go back to 2001, September 11th, and that was, you were already in that playing season, and so it was, do we play football? Do we not play football? But it was dealing with one weekend, and what do we do? And then you got back to normal life. This is something different, at least in my lifetime. And, you kind of can go back to the Spanish flu and all that in 1918. And, what did they do? And I've seen pictures where people are coming to games wearing masks, et cetera. And, at least my time as an administrator, this is, the biggest issue I think any of us faced. And, we can't go back to, those administrators who went through something similar and said, what did you all do during this time? So we're all kind of locking arms and working together to say, how do we get through this time, not only in the sport of football, but in intercollegiate athletics as a whole. And it's bringing students back to campus, not only student athletes, and what that's going to look like, and what, other protocols come into place, such as testing, et cetera. So it's just something that is completely new to me as an administrator, and I think a lot of others, athletic directors out there as well, that we've just never, faced anything like this.